Hi, how's it going? My name's Jason, and I love dance music, and I love the gear that we use to create it. And this channel is all about both of those things. Now, one of my favorite days is coming up. I'm not talking about Black Friday. I'm talking about release day. I've got a new song coming out on Leveled Records. It's the first time I've released with them. They're a label in Canada. Really excited about their support. So the song is called Kind of Spooky. It's coming out on November the 25th on all platforms. Now, what I thought would be cool is today I'd like to show you a little bit on how I created the track. So what you're gonna see today is a quick overview of the track and the elements that are in it. And then also we're gonna talk about how I designed the key synth patches. I use the Subsequent 25 for a lot of them, and also the Sequential Take 5. And if this all sounds good to you, please like and subscribe. I'm building this channel. I've just started it about a month and a half ago, so appreciate the support. All right, let's get into it. So before us, we have my project in Logic Pro for my new song, Kind of Spooky. And what I'd like to do is take you through some of the key synth elements and how I designed them. But before we get started in that, I'd like to play for you a part of the song so you can hear the whole thing and you can hear each element in context. So here we go.
It's night, it's dark, there's skeletons, it's kinda spooky.
Hey guys, today we're going into a haunted house, like we're walking into it. It's almost midnight, and when you hear it will be midnight. Ghost.
It's night, it's dark, there's skeletons, it's kinda spooky.
Hey guys, we're going upstairs. It's midnight, guys, okay? Wait, is that a ghost? Like, why is it floating, but then also following me? What's going on here?
It's kinda spooky. It's kinda spooky.
Is that a zombie?
Okay, I'll stop it there. That's pretty much the whole radio version. Now, just to break it down a little bit for you, I like to color code things so you can see different kind of aspects grouped together. At the top, you have the vocals, and that's actually my son and my daughter who spoke those for me. I made this before Halloween, and I wanted to make it fun. I had this idea of it being kind of spooky, so I had them talk about spooky things. My daughter is 7, and so I just gave her the phone, and this is what she came up with.
It's night, it's dark, there's skeletons, it's kinda spooky.
Right? I love that. So she just talked about spooky things. And then I gave the phone to my son, and he started as if he was like running a YouTube channel. So here's what he said.
Hey guys, today we're going into a haunted house, like we're walking into it. It's almost midnight, and when you hear it will be midnight.
Nice. So I loved that. You know, he's like taking us through the haunted house. My daughter is kind of describing spooky things, and she says the tagline, kind of spooky. And in each of those, I tried to add some good reverb to it, some good delay to create that atmosphere. Now, in terms of synthesizers, I'm using my Subsequent 25, a fair amount here, and I'm also using my Sequential Take 5. And also, I'm using Logic's Alchemy. I find these are good things to combine because Alchemy, you can get really interesting like digital sounds, and then obviously the others are there for the analog sounds. And I was wanting to go with something that's kind of a bass house track, but also quite melodic, so I guess it'd be melodic bass house. And I've been experimenting with a theme where I've got different instruments playing the same melody. So that's what I've done for the main theme here. You can see I've got it grouped together in this drop part. And I've got basically, how many here? And then this one up here as well. So I've got 5 different instruments taking part to play the melody. So here's how that sounds. See, there's another synth that comes in here. So some of these I made within Logic. So I should bring that down here so you can see it a little more. This, what I call horror shot, because that's just what it sounded like to me, right? It's got this kind of reet sound. So that was actually just a preset that I tweaked a little bit in Alchemy. Now, this chime melody as well, I just used, I'm pretty sure it was in Alchemy or might have been Native Instruments, their FM instrument, but it's just basically a simple FM chime that I wanted to play, and it's playing a harmony above the melody. And it just comes in. Now, beyond that, as you can see, I've got 3 other elements, and let me take you now to show you how I made these on the Subsequent 25. So let me start out with the one that starts the drop. It's the main one to me. This is a really iconic sound, and I've made it using 2 sawtooth waves along with hard sync. Now, I've actually utilized something about the Subsequent 25 here. You see that it's got continuous wave shapes, and you start with triangle and move to sawtooth. I like the sound of things when it's just a little bit below the sawtooth wave. It's a bit of a mellower sound. So I've got both of those there, and I've got the frequency offset just a little bit, but not very much at all, because what's going on with that is I'm making it so that the LFO is affecting the pitch of oscillator 2 alongside that hard sync, and you can see it's sweeping it pretty slowly, and that creates this sound. Okay, and I also, an important aspect to this is the H90. I've got the Eventide chorus going on that's creating a fullness to the sound, and also I've got the black hole reverb going on. Okay, now to play the melody, it's just a simple melody. Right, so that's how I created the first melody, and as you can hear in the track, I've also cut in another melody, so let's go to that one now. So this is a patch that I made a while back, and it's become one of my favorite go-tos for melodies. Now, how I've created it is with a sawtooth wave just below, again, moving a little bit into the triangle wave, and then I've also got almost a full-out square wave going on, but it's just below that a little bit. So it's somewhere starting in between a sawtooth and a square, and the 2 are at the same octaves, even though it doesn't show that here. Here we go. There's an offset in the frequency, just slightly. So it sounds like this. There we go. And I also use that in the breakdown. And what I've done is I've added the LFO to change the pitch very slightly. Right, so it almost gets a warbly tape-like effect. As you can see, the LFO is moving pretty slowly, and it's a continuous running LFO. And I have no EG going on, right? So it's... That's the sound. And the chorus on the Eventide plays a big part in this. It takes the subsequent 25, just makes it even bigger sounding, and then also the black hole is another important part of the sound. So that's two. Let's go to the third one now. It's kind of the response, and actually in the second drop it starts it out so that the other one is the response. But this one is, again, you can see there, two sawtooth waves just a little bit into the triangle, both at the same octave, and there's a frequency offset going on. I've got them both at noon. There's not really much EG happening, so that it just has a sustain to it. And then I've also got a pitch LFO happening. That's it without the pitch. So the pitch LFO is an important aspect to it. And then also the chorus on the Eventide, again, really fattens it up, creates a lot more texture to it. So here's how it sounds. Oh yeah, and I've got a bit of resonance up as well, and you can sweep the filter to taste. So here's how it sounds. So that's the sounds I've used for the melody using the subsequent 25. Okay, now another synth that I used a lot in this track was the Sequential Take 5. I used it, this time I wanted to go with like a really kind of analog-y, lo-fi sound for my sweeps and my risers. So I used a really classic sound from the Take 5 to create kind of the downwards and upwards effects. So you can hear just really classic, the resonance up, and then here's a swell in. Right, so let me show you how I made that. I started with the preset Rev 2 Slow Sweep. It's got that classic sweeping sound of the filter, and I had to make it my own in order for it to fit the context. So it's two sawtooth waves detuned a little bit, both at the same octave, and the filter is going to end up pretty low. The resonance is up quite high. Not a lot of drive because it kind of takes away from the resonance sound. And here's where I really had to play with things to get the right delay time or decay time and the right starting amount in the envelope. But at the end of the day, it sounded great. Especially I've added digital delay and I've got the chorus from the Eventide mod factor. So here's how it sounds. You can add even more resonance if you want. You can add a sub. Great, so it just slowly, and then you can also do a riser for this. Just a perfect analog old school sound that the Take 5 excels at. Now, I've also used the Take 5 for the upper bass, and you probably know this already, but a helpful tip when it comes to bass lines. Basically, as a rule almost, I like to have two elements at least for my bass line, sometimes three. As you can see, I've got in red here, these are the sub bass elements. So this is just a sine wave that I've made, I believe it was in Massive. Right, so it's just giving me the sub bass, and then I can actually EQ that to taste just how much. Often I've been bringing it quite low, so it's just sub bass. But then on top of that, I like to have analog bass instruments or analog instruments playing the bass, what I've called kind of the top bass, and where I'm scooping out the low end. And for these, I did a combination. The main one that's carrying the weight is this one, which is the Take 5. So it's quite sidechain to make it get out of the way of the kick. And I've got a little bit of reverb on that. And also there's a tremolo effect that comes in to kind of create extra interest. But let me show you how I made that on the Take 5. What I'm using here is something pretty simple that I created from scratch. It is 2 oscillators, both at full, both on sawtooth waves, no resonance, a little bit of drive. I've also got some reverb going on, just kind of a room sound to fill things out. And here, the envelope, it's not a super bright amount, and it's a long enough decay. And the thing about bass lines, you have to be careful with how bright you make them. This is something I learned from trial and error. Basically, if you already have bright elements going on, like your drums and the melody, like it is in my song, you don't want it to be very bright, right? So it's bright enough, but it's not gonna clash with the really bright stuff. I also have the sub oscillator in. Now, another trick, something that's really easy to do on the Take 5 that I really like the sound of, you put it into unison and you create it so that there's 4 voices, 5, 3, whatever you want. And then obviously you detune these just a little bit. Now, what you do then is you go into the mod and you choose voice spread as your source assignment. And then the destination is going to be panning. And so when you have unison and you have the voices, basically this allows for it to be wider. So this is it without, right? But the more we dial this in, and it already has a bit of stereo imaging because of the reverb, but as we dial this in, check this out. As I dial this in, you're going to hear that it spreads out. Right? It's a really easy way of making a bass line just really fill out the stereo field. So that, in a nutshell, was the bass line, and it comes together to sound like this. There we go. So that's the bass line. Now on top of that, to add a little more oomph, I included this. And that was made with the Subsequent 25, and it's just basically a couple of sawtooth waves with chorus that are doubling that bass line. So that's actually it for what I wanted to show you with the analog bass sounds and analog melody sounds. Also wanted to show you this within Logic. This is one of the hooks, and it's kind of creating that like Halloween, Halloween the movie kind of vibe. Here it is. So obviously I played with that a lot. This was a fun sound. This was in Logic, and it was just a preset, that kind of like a xylophone type preset. But what I did to add extra interest, I've added some of my favorite plugins for creating kind of a lo-fi warbly sound. So I used this VHS, and this is giving us that pitch drift here. It's also adding a little bit of lo-fi reverb and a little bit of heat, which is a little bit of distortion. I'm also using this, which is a great lo-fi delay, and that's coming in every now and then. You can see it's automated here. So it comes in at this part, for instance, right? Just to kind of create this cool stuttering effect almost. Right? And it's just a really cool sounding delay. And lastly, what I used to create a lot of interest was this fun beat breaker in Logic. And I set it up so that, as you can see, it's going to repeat things. And these things are really easy. You can decide just how many repeats are going to happen by dragging up and down. But I wanted to create that kind of broken up stutter effect. And I didn't want it to happen all the time. So I automated it so that it happens only in certain parts and some stronger than others. So you can hear when it comes in here. Right? And same thing in a little bit. Right, along with the echo. So that was kind of fun. A simple part it started out, but then to add these extra mixing elements kind of created a lot of extra, I think, interest to it. So that's all that I wanted to show you when it comes to the synthesizers. Let me just show you also the drums. This one was a lot of fun to create. I had a lot of layers going here. And again, I like to separate out my lower kick, my deep bass kick from the upper kick. And for this one, sometimes I use massive actually just to construct from a sine wave the sub kick. But this one, I wanted to go for a little bit more of an old school house vibe. And so I just used the 909 from my TR8. So I've recorded a 909 kick from my TR8. And then I scooped out all the high end. So it's just the sub from the 909. So it just sounds like that. Sorry about the clipping. There you go. And then on top of everything, just for the sake of this mix, I've got an overall drum track, but I wanted to show you each of them in context. So I always layer at least one more kick on top. This one was just a sample within Logic to give it a good smack. And I really like to, I've got a lot more success by really putting an envelope on there. So it's just a quick smack and it's not trailing off. It interacts well with then the sub kick, as you can hear. I've had better luck with keeping that top kick, having quite a bit of body to it, and then having the sub kick really being down like 80 hertz and below. Now, I've also just got some individual shots that you can see in here. But what I like to do is I take my important shots like the clap, the kick, the snare, and also I like to have a ride in there for brightness. And that's actually from the TR8. I find the TR8 just has some classic ride sounds. You put it on each beat and it really brightens up the kick drum element. Now, but on top of those one shots, to make it your own, to make it more interesting, I'm sorry to use the word interesting a lot. It's the best thing I could say. I like to have loops that are interacting with those one shots. And I've showed you in other videos how I like to use things like my Volca sample for that. And that's actually what I did with one of the loops going on in behind here. So let me show you that. It's happening in the breakdown. Right? It almost sounds like footsteps, which was perfect for when my son was talking about walking through the haunted house and actually use footstep sounds too. But this was a loop that I made in the Volca sample, and then I just ran it through a phaser in my Eventide mod factor pedal. And so it created this top loop that I liked. Also, I'm using my TR8. You can hear there. So just a classic 808 sound with the snare, with the clap, and with the hi-hats. And I'll tell you, I've tried out a lot of different external, like hardware drum machines, and their hi-hats often sound kind of weak. And I just find I gravitate to those 808 hi-hats quite often. To me, they are just classic. They sound perfect. And alongside that, I've got other hi-hat loops going to create that shuffle. That's again, I believe, from the TR8 using the 909 sounds. Either that or I was using the TR8 to trigger sounds within Logic. But yeah, so that's it for the drums. Often I'll also have an extra hi-hat loop going on. As you can see, in house music, hi-hats are quite important. You want to layer them. You want to have different textures going on. And if this were a mixing tutorial, I'd also say you really have to be careful about your EQ with that so that you're choosing which ones are going to be really bright and which ones aren't going to be, and making sure you're sculpting out the right frequencies so they fit together well. So it is a bit of a mixing challenge, including all those hi-hats, but it is worth it. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you with this song. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, feel free to mention them in the comments. If you'd like me to show you a bit more about this track or other tracks, or if you'd like me to get into mixing elements and all of that, let me know. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. That was my new song called Kind of Spooky, and we got to talk about some of the different layers there. We got to talk synths and how to build your own patches. So I hope you found that helpful. Please feel free to comment on things you'd like me to cover in the future, like if you want me to cover the mixing process or how to make further synth patches. Feel free to let me know. So until next time then, take care. Bye.